My name is Sophonias Nukuse. I went to the inaugural class of ALU, double majored in computer science and enjoyment. And I'm currently a consulting associate at a ag tech firm called Pula. I think attending university expanded my world, just like expanded my idea of the continent and sort of who lives there, my idea of the kind of opportunities that I thought were available to me. But also really expanded like my idea of myself, like who is Sophonias in the grand scheme of like the world, which sounds like big, but honestly, I think it expanded my world and it really showed me that there's a lot more I can do than I'd previously sort of imagined for myself, which is really nice. I think you realize the value of Pathway is going to be that whatever you do, there's a bunch of foundational skills that are important regardless of where you go. And being able to get that even before you go into university, I think is like a super head start. I think also one of the challenges, like when I was first applying to uni, is that there was no one to tell me what options they were, what kind of schools I could go to. And so that kind of support, I think, will be super helpful. And to this day, I mean, the Pathway equivalent at ALU was my first year. But it's probably the skill set I use the most, even today, many, many years later. So I think it's a really important foundation. The basics are there. Like if you're applying, ideally, the grades are in place and, you know, sort of great profile because it's a very competitive world. But I think after that, you stand out with your story. And sometimes because it's your story, you don't realize how unique it can be. But really tapping into, okay, who are you? What are the challenges you had? What are your sort of unique set of upbringing? That is where you'll be different because everyone will have good grades. Everyone will have done extracurriculars. But that unique thing is like, what is your story? And I think sometimes it's very hard to believe that your story is unique or sort of that it has something to give. One is to be super curious. There's a lot of resources that you'll be given and you sort of have to do the hard work of digging into that, but also being very curious around some subjects might not be what you want to do, but even just knowing about them allows you to sort of have a world that's opened. I think the best thing you can take out of these though is the community. And so it's like, make friends, spend time with people outside of just a group assignment. And those bonds you build 5, 10, 15 years become sort of the kind of bonds that make work life and social life enjoyable. I think I wish I had known that I didn't have to have it figured out. You know, like you're young, fresh out of high school, you feel like you need to know what job I'm going to do and why I'm doing this degree. I do think it's important to be like precise, but I would have really it would have been so much less pressure if someone told me, no, the point of this is to figure it out. So yeah, I wish someone just told me, look, try, but like you don't have to have it all figured out in the beginning. I think one is like, I like to call it sort of the artist mindset, which is when you see that Pathway is something new, there'll be things that are sort of iterated on. When you see a blank space, sort of the artist sees a canvas that they can build new things on top of, but other people might be like, hey, this is missing or that's missing. So I think bringing like the whole, let me own it, let me find the things that aren't there is an important thing. I think also very just hard work. The grit of saying, okay, this is a very competitive thing I'm trying to go into. And so nothing will replace just being really good at what I do. The rest of the stuff comes from that being there. But I think lastly, also just this Pan-Africanness, like the authenticity maybe, right? You're going into a global school and sort of applying for global standards, but you need to always have that, you know, in this case, I'm in Ethiopia, I'm Ethiopian. That identity, I think, should also be with you as you sort of strive for global standards. Actually, if you like, they'd correlate with the leadership core classes. The number one is communication, and communication in the sense that they said this to me in first year. They were like, if the person doesn't get the message, that's your fault, right? If you want to communicate something, until they get it, it's on you. And that, whether it's like communicating upwards or to your team or to your peers, that's a big one. I think data and numbers, like being able to understand and sort of make a good story with numbers, but also catch, you know, the kind of stories that people can make up with numbers is a good skill I sort of use every day. And then figuring it out. Like, we were in a university where there were no real clubs, you had to build everything. And so every time I don't find something, there's a figure it out value, I think, that's been instilled in us that's super helpful.